안녕하세요. 엑스라인의 꼽돌입니다.
안녕하세요. 멀더입니다.
이번 방송은 지난 1편에 이어 전생 최면 전문가이자 영매인 영국의 루이스 그린과의 인터뷰가 계속됩니다.
이번 편에서도요. 우리 영혼에 대한 흥미롭고 다양한 이야기가 이어지고요. 가장 흥미로웠던 이 그레이 외계인과의 근접 조우에 대해서도 이야기하게 됩니다. 재미있게 들어주세요.
Going back, you said that however the bad experiences a one soul can have here on Earth, it cannot be something that could be more worse or more immature, but it's just part of the full experience here. But it is still difficult to explain to these people that are living hard and challenging lives, understand that this is all just part of experience and they're actually divine or a part of God. But how can you best explain this to these people that are going through difficult times?
Do you know, I think when we're going through trauma, Gino, your focus is on the next second and on the next minute. It may not even be on the next hour. You might not even be able to see that far ahead. But the trauma or the difficulty is so all-consuming that all you can do is just lurch through the next minute to try and get by, to try and cope. That's all you can do. I think at times like that, very few are open to any message about divinity. It's just such a focus on just getting by. And I think as well, at times like that, if someone did bring that message forward, at best it might not be received, it might not be listened to, it might not be accepted, but at worst, it could anger somebody. And it could be make them so angry that they never explore divinity again at any point in their life. It could be detrimental. And I think if we are going to show a spiritual self or a godly self, sometimes just a quiet patience and strength is all that's required. And it may well be if it's a family member or a friend that's struggling or going through a difficult time, I wouldn't necessarily bring them a message of divinity or God loves you. I would just be there for them. And you could show that divinity yourself and perhaps just listening to them, taking the time to listen to them.
Mhm.
When people are in trauma, they're inevitably dehydrate. People, when they're going through a really tough time, forget to drink. And the best thing you could do for them is bring them a glass of water or a cup of tea, or just say, can I make you something to eat? And just be there, that quiet patience, that quiet strength to support them through. And it may well be as they watch that, as they sit in your company, there may be a part of them that thinks, oh, you know, what a lovely energy. And hopefully when I get through this particular time, I can explore that further. I think as well, people that work in the spiritual arena, when they do any explanation of spirituality, divinity, needs to be from a heart center and not from the ego. It has to be a heart-centric message. So if someone's struggling, I would say, look at why we're trying to give them the message. Is it because it makes us look good? You know, look at me, I'm spiritual, yay. It could be an egotistical message, so it may not be best to say it at all and show that quiet example. And hopefully in the future, the sun will come out for them at some point in the future, and then it may be a way of broaching it gently if it's appropriate.
Okay.
It may not be everyone's cup of tea.
I think that's a great advice. I mean, it just shoving up the concept of divinity in front of those people who are going through very difficult
Oh,
times might be just too much for them. So I
yeah.
completely agree with you to be patient and just be supportive of them, and one day they'll realize themselves on the concept of divinity.
Yeah,
But
and it's all about feeling, isn't it? Sorry, Don.
Yeah, but as you know, some people are born into, extremely unfortunate families and endure, great suffering from the get-go, from their life starting point. And it
Mm.
seems that despite any choices, even with the free will, whatever the choice they make, it seems they remain miserable and unhappy. So I was wondering, why do these people, individuals, have to endure such suffering regardless of choices they make? And it even seems that they have no real choice to be happier or make their lives better. And these are the people I have really hard time dealing with and tell them, how to feel better or learn something from our channel.
Oh, I agree with that, Don. When you look across the globe and you see the poverty, the hardship, cruelty, control, and we also see good things happening to bad people and bad things happening to good people. And our overwhelming response is, why? Why is this happening? This just doesn't seem right. This just doesn't seem just. And again, it can seem glib to speak about it, the soul experiencing, when people are going through the most horrendous times. I mean, you just have to open up your local newspaper or listen to your news to see global events and the horror of it. And again, it's going back to what, Gina, you were just saying there about how can we help people in times like that. I think if we can physically help them in some way, so be it, perhaps through charitable means. If we cannot help in that capacity, it gives us a chance to send compassion. And even if you just do that in thought, for example, there's people across the globe that we may never visit, may never meet, but we can send compassion. And that will bring some alleviation somewhere, because thought is the most powerful force in the universe. So sending compassion might have an energetic response somewhere else. And we may never know that. We may never know that. And I think on Earth, and these are earthly constructs, Don, there is inequality, unfortunately, across some nations. And we can only hope that ultimately there will be more fairness for us to work towards, or more justice for the disenfranchised or the poor. That in turn might allow someone else who's incarnated to try to bring those more fairer concepts in, if that makes any sense. There are many great workers across the globe who are battling all these terrible poverties and injustices, and they are doing that. And it's a human thing to say, why on earth would you want to incarnate as someone who's sick, poor, having a terrible time? But there we are. It's a free will choice on the part of the soul, but it doesn't make it easier on the person that has to live it.
Yes, well said. Yeah, I mean, there are people saying that, when we talk about souls choosing the lives they incarnate, and
Mm.
some people say there's no freaking way I would have chosen this difficult life. You know what I'm saying, right? So,
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that. And it goes back to what we we're saying. Ours is a real life, and we mustn't lose sight of that. We can talk about soul and spirit and earthbound spirits and what have you, extraterrestrials, whatever. But ours is a real life, and we have to live it. And it can be absolutely tough. And there's no two ways about it. There's no getting away from it. And for some, there may not be a cessation of those trials and tribulations through that lifetime. And that is hard. We can only hope that they would have someone to give them support, or as I do, I'm a soul-centered healer. If I'm lucky enough to have someone that wants to do soul-centered work, we can go down and converse with the soul to find out what the patterns are, what's going on, Is it something that needs healing? Can we work with it and to try and alleviate the worst of it? Sometimes I wouldn't be able to help at all. It's not possible, but you can only do what you can to support those around us and send compassion to those we can't. Do you know, it's an interesting thing. When we work spiritually, people say, oh, you have to like everything, you have to love everybody. That isn't always the case. Sometimes we can go through our lives and not like something, and that can be a good thing. It's okay not to like something. We can't love everyone. We can't love every experience. Sometimes we just have to say, do you know what? I'm sick of this. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I'm not happy about it. And that could be a catalyst for change for somebody, that they just think, do you know what? I've had enough. That's it. I'm going to make a change here. And at that point, there's a movement. It may be a little thing, but it's a movement, and they move on. There may be, for example, some politics I don't like. I really don't like, but I can't change it. So I just have to say, do you know what? Not happy about that, but I'm going to step back from it. And I'm just going to send compassion to the situation. That's all I can do. So sometimes we don't have to like what happens.
Okay. Those people, those people I just talked about, when I explain things to them, I say lives are like plays, games, even like movies, and you get to choose your next game, so to
Yeah,
speak. And then maybe you're very, a person with a lot of, excitement, and, you are looking for a harder challenge than everybody else, because there are people who are looking for games that are not so easy, but they want to play something really, really difficult and hard to beat, but, get more satisfaction out of it. And maybe you're one of those people, or your soul is one of those souls. Would that be a fair statement?
absolutely. And in that game, it could allow you to be the support for someone else, to assist someone else in meeting their particular needs and challenges, that you have to play that role. So say, for example, Gina and Don, here you are with the wonderful X line. You're bringing information to people, awareness to people. I would say both of you, this would have its roots in past life, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And you two, who knows, you could have been brothers in past lives. You might even been sisters, who knows? It's not gender specific. We've been all creeds, all colours, all genders many times over. But I would say you two have worked together very much in past life, and you could have been bringers of information. So I'm making this up now, but you both could have been horseback riders with your information on a scroll or a piece of parchment, where you've ridden to a city and you would have handed it over to the king or the emperor and say, here is the latest information, and then you've galloped off again. So you could have been information bringers in previous lives. Who knows? And now you're doing continuing this particular role to explore it further.
Thank you so much for that. And if we were connected in the past lives, I think
Mhm.
I was his strict father, because I'm always, like nagging him and telling him what's not to do and things like that. So I think that,
That's
sounds
quite
like,
interesting, because I thought the same thing. I must have been your son, your problematic son in the past life.
maybe
Jin,
I was a trouble son, and now we're doing the reverse role reversal.
Not really. We're just partners.
you might have been husband and wife.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know. You're going to say I'm not incarnating again as either husband or wife. Ugh.
Oh,
Now there's an image you can't get out your mind.
Well, I think we had this is our last question that we have prepared, and I think you've already answered this already in just a couple minutes ago. But a lot of people have mentions that the Earth is actually a prison planet, and souls are trapped in Earth. And I don't think you believe this, right? What are your thoughts on this?
I think the planet, Gaia, is an entity in its own right. It's certainly not a prison. It's a beautiful planet. When we see the blue planet hanging in space, we have so much beauty here. I think the concept of feeling trapped comes from our own experiences. And we can feel trapped in so many ways. It can be trapped in a destructive relationship. It can be trapped in an awful job. It can be trapped by poverty. And that is what imprisons us. I think the biggest prisoner of all on the earth is the emotion of shame. That is the biggest prisoner that holds us back. Shame allows for fear and guilt to come in. Shame's the worst emotion. When fear and guilt come in, we become paralyzed, literally in so many ways, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and sometimes even in physicality, that we feel we cannot go forward. We might start to have, I can't remember the word for it, when you become housebound and is agoraphobic, won't go outside. Can't remember the right word. That fear of going out can come in with shame, fear, and guilt. It's such a paralyzing emotion, and there is a prisoner, and that's what holds us back. If we're experiencing shame, I would say, even if you have to work with yourself, try to release shame. Think about it. What are you feeling ashamed of? What's the circumstances around it? Can you let go a little bit? Try to let go a little bit. And if that is let go of even a little bit, or a willingness to let go, then sometimes that feel of being trapped in prison can lift. And it's our choices and experiences again that trap us. It's not, we're not a prison planet. We are free to come. Well, sometimes we can be imprisoned, of course. Again, if we've committed murder, then you'll go to jail and you can't do much about that. So yes, you will be well and truly trapped until the judiciary decide otherwise. But no, I don't think it's a prison planet. I have heard it described as a boot camp. That Earth is that might be a good word for it. Our experiences are brutal.
Right.
It can be a dreadful place, but it's not the planet. It's just the life you're living.
I think boot camp is a better way to put it.
Yeah, boot camp. Yeah, it can be tough going. I agree with that. Absolutely.
Okay, so we have like
Oh,
just 5 minutes left before we. Oh, go ahead, Don.
yeah. One of the viewer question is that can souls be perished?
Right.
Disappearing forever and cease to exist anywhere?
The soul is made of the light of the source. The soul is a fractal of God, and I think it is quite possible for that light to diminish. I really do. That the light will, in some cases of that soul, could diminish to a point where it's barely there at all. Whether it would be completely extinguished, I do not know. But I think the light of the soul can go, yes. If the soul chooses negative contracts with the dark, with negativity, that can diminish light. And it's quite possible that the soul can, I'm wearing my soul-centered healing hat on now. I am aware of soul-centered healing. In some cases, the soul can go into the dark and experience real negativity. And the light can go very much out. I would describe the dark as not evil in itself, but it's that which is in it that can cause the issue. Nighttime is dark. When the sun goes down the horizon, we have darkness, but there is nothing wrong with the night. But we can get burglars and assailants going about at nighttime. So the dark is not at fault, but it's what goes on in the dark. And I think that souls can go into that dimension of darkness and for the soul to go out. I believe in some cases, if the soul does align with the darkness or evil, if you want that word, then you could say there's it's perished, if you like. But I think there is still an element of the light in there that, if necessary, if the soul chose, could come back to the light of unconditional love if it chose to do so. But it could choose not to if it wanted to stay in the remit of evil.
Interesting. Would you have just time for just one or two last questions from our
Yeah,
viewers?
at your disposal. Fire away.
Okay. So it's this actually a question about yourself, actually. Do you know the fundamental reason why you were born as a medium and why some people are born as medium?
Oh gosh, I gather, having worked with my own soul, I've done a lot of work on myself. I seem to have done it in the past. I was in one of my own incarnations, a healer, if you want to call it that, a wise woman. Some would call it witch, if you want that word. And it was, I lived, I lived on a forest's edge by a lake, and I would gather berries and herbs and make potions to make people better. I don't think I was appreciated by the local population very much. And I don't think I fared very well at their hands. I've also been how should I First Nation in America, what we call a Native American, First Nation American, and I gather I was very much a vibrant warrior male. In all my incarnations, I've had curly hair. Do you know that? All my incarnations have always had curly hair. Huh. And in this, as the First Nation American, I would ride horses at full pelt, bareback, fearless. And in this incarnation, I cannot and will not drive. Now there's my working through it. I've done all the speed in one life. I'm now not doing it in this one.
You haven't
So
driven since ever?
I hate driving. I hate driving. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. I've had lessons. I've passed my test. I've had advanced lessons. I've had hypnotherapy. You name it. I've had it. I hate it. I'm not doing it. It's not happening. And I feel that, in my opinion, it's because I was this Native American on horseback who rode at all speed, completely fearless. So now I'm having an experience without speed. With my balance. But going back to your question about mediumship, as far as I know, it ran in the family, or it runs in the family.
Okay.
There are some groups, I think, where it's the gene is perhaps a little more prevalent.
Interesting.
But some people in families, they can be great musicians, or great artists. Their gene is is stronger. But I believe everybody has the ability to be psychic. It's inherent, absolutely inherent. And you can work or learn how to pick up on energy sensitivity. That's clairvoyancy, clairaudience. You might not do a lot with it. You just might use it for yourself, but it can lift your earthly experience a little bit out of 3D, away from the physicalist, the materialist society, into that more of a life that has intuition and instinct, and that can serve you so well. So for me, being a medium, I think it's just in the genes. It's just, and I've incarnated, obviously, to work with that. I may choose in a future incarnation, or my soul might say, do you know what, I'm done.
I'll go back to
I'm
being
not,
a warrior again.
yeah, I'm not doing it again.
All right.
One last question.
Yeah.
Are there any people in this world without souls? They're termed so-called NPCs, non-player characters in games. So those are like, just characters without any controlling people.
Like artificial intelligence almost.
Like AI. Yeah, I've been giving thought to this. I think ultimately, we will have people that are AI, complete art, that will look like, talk like, feel like a human being, and it would be virtually impossible to tell them apart. Would they have a soul? Not. Excuse me, I thought I turned my Alexa device off. I'm so sorry. It'll go in a second. Alexa, start. Gina, Alexa, stop. Portuguese lesson. She's having none of it. Do you know, here we are chatting about artificial intelligence, and the next thing we have Alexa proving a point. My apologies, I thought I had turned it off, clearly not. I think we will have functioning people that look like, sound like human beings. Will they have a soul? No, I don't think they will. It may well be when the existence comes to an end, then that would be that. I think it would be lost. I don't think the consciousness would remain. There wouldn't be a subconsciousness to it. There wouldn't be a soul to it. But I think whilst the AI person was on the earth plane, alive and well, I think they would be entitled to dignity and respect.
I see. So what you're saying is that everyone who lives on this planet right now, excluding AI, it has a soul.
In my opinion, yes. I may be wrong, but in my opinion, yes. I think we are soul-based. It's a spark of life, Don. I think when we had, not wishing to be vulgar, there was conception, and at some point that embryo received a soul, and then we have got that spark of life coming in. We've got the consciousness coming into the developing baby in the womb, and I think we have got that soul, and it will remain with us until the last breath out, and it will be the last thing to leave the body when we go. So I think we are the spark of the all that is. We're functioning with soul, and it will stay with us until that very last moment when it will depart.
Thanks
Not for a long time yet, I trust.
Okay. All right. I think that's about it for today. Unless during your past life regressions and medium sessions, have you ever encountered extraterrestrial entities?
Yes.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have?
Yes. Very
Would you
much. Yeah.
please explain that for the last, question?
Yeah,
Actually,
it
that was
was.
one of the questions from our viewer.
Yeah, I have. I've experienced an unearthly being. I've also experienced, thankfully not often, that which we call the demonic. So it's can be quite interesting. Many years ago, when I was training to be a medium, obviously we learn it. It's something that you develop, and you can go to what's called the development circle. That is to say, it's a school for mediums, a simple way to put it. And you sit with the same people every week at the same time for years, with the exception of ill health or holiday. That same group meets every week at the same time. It's not done for money. It's done because it's vocational and because you're developing your higher self, your soul, and you want to be in service to the all that is. So it's vocational, it's a calling. And I've been sitting in a very good group for some years with the same people. Our energies were as one, where we had sat for so long. We had built up a trust amongst each other, but we had also built up a trust with our spirit teams, with our inspirers on the other side. They are real. Oh, goodness me, they are real. They're very much alive and well. And we would work with our spirit teams for the development of bringing in spiritual messages. Also physical mediumship. That's another rabbit hole on we can go down. But it was at the end of one circle, and I can remember it as clear as day. A circle leader had put a small side light back on. So, because we would sit in obviously blackout conditions, so the best way to see spirit is in blackout. And I kid you not, and this is the truth, and I will appreciate it if people don't want to accept it, that is fine, for I've no physical evidence for it. In the middle of our circle appeared solidly a being, and it had, the nearest I can get to it is is oblong black eyes that you have, the type you see on greys,
Right.
like that. The obsidian black eyes, no hair, quite full here. The nose, I would say, was near, and the nostrils were nearer to that of a walrus or a seal, is what I would get there with the nostril and that slight line. And I looked at that. I looked at it, and it wasn't in the little video screen here. I was looking at it with my physical eyes, and it was looking around at us. And it's, my brain said, I don't know what that is. There's nothing in your data bank that I can relate to here. And you know, for a moment, I felt sheer and utter fear because my brain was saying, you don't know what this is. You need to be ready to move. It was a primeval response going back to ancient times where the brain goes, whoa, we could be in trouble. And this being looked at us. Now, my friend who was sitting on my left, I looked to her because I thought if I look at her and look back and it's gone, then I could say I could have imagined it. I looked to her and her face was staring at it as well. She had gone slack-jawed. She saw my movement. She looked to me and she gestured and I went like that. And we both mouthed at the same time the exact same word, alien. We both mouthed it and we both looked back and it was still there. It hadn't gone. And all of a sudden, away.
It's vanished.
It vanished as quick as it came in. And I believe that when you sit in circle, in development circle for mediumship, what happens is you set up a portal, and you'll probably understand that word. It opens to other dimensions. These are energetic. These exist. And this being saw this portal and thought, you know what, I'll just pop in, have a little look round, what we got going on here. As I looked into its eyes, I didn't feel malevolence. I felt it was benign. And looking back, I just wished now that I'd corresponded with it. My big regret, I wished I could have asked where it had come from, but I was so stunned. I was so stunned, I didn't think to do it.
So fascinating.
Oh, I'll never forget that. I'll never see it again, because I think circles that we had back then, people don't do anymore. People haven't got the time to give up years to work mediumistically. People haven't patience, haven't time, can't be bothered. But the energies that we built up were so strong that it allowed on this occasion for that to happen. Yeah, wonderful. So I was very, very fortunate.
That was an amazing experience to hear.
Yeah, sorry.
Did this being communicate anything with you or the person who was sitting next to you?
Not as far as I know, it just looked at us. It just looked at us with those, I can remember the eyes blacker than black. And it just looked at us with no emotion. There was nothing there. It was, I would give the word, it was observing. That's all it was doing. It was observing.
It's surprising to see that even after all your experiences with spirits, you still found it quite terrifying when you first encountered this being. You said the word primeval, or was it?
Yes, I think so, because the human mind has lots of images in its filing cabinet that it can relate to. We can watch a horror film and see that, and the brain says, oh yeah, that's a horror film. Oh, whoopsie. Not a problem. But my brain was going, hello, you might have to leg it here. There is nothing in your filing cabinet that I can relate to. And that's what generated the fear. I gather years ago, no, I'll start that again. I gather some nations sometimes don't see things if it's not in their data bank. I believe in, again, going back to First Nation America, when the first colonists arrived in the toll ships, the Native American people couldn't see them because it wasn't in their data bank. There was no reference, is the word I'm looking for.
Right.
There was no reference point, and so they didn't see it. And I think that's what my brain was seeing. There is no reference point for this. This could go either way. When we work mediumistically as well, I say I have experienced the demonic. And again, I didn't feel fear, but it did make me nervous. I'm not going to sit and say it doesn't, because you need to care for your physical self. You don't know which way it's going to go. So you need to be ready to flee if that's what you have to do. I mean, don't hang about. So I would be nervous, but I don't feel fear in that case. Nerves and fear are two different things.
When did this happen?
Oh, I was working with a client. The client was we were doing soul-centered healing. The client was in repose in the hypnotic state, the hypnagogic state. We had been working quite nicely, and it uncovered a demon that had come in to her inner world, inner realms, and it wasn't too happy about me trying to heal. And so it's had the lady sit bolt upright very quickly. And I kid you not, and it surprised me. The eyes turned to pure orange light. And it's a type, when you see horror films and you have the pair of red eyes in the dark, it's like that, but pure orange. And I just looked and I thought, oh, hello. This isn't good, is it? Oh dear, right, we need to do a bit of work here. All right, so let's sort this out. And I just went to work with the demon. I had a chat with it, and finally was able to effect a healing process, and we removed the demon quite successfully. As far as I know, it's still happy wherever it is. But yeah, you can get things like the demonic, and especially as well if you go out ghost hunting, if that's what Jinu and Don, if you ever do that, you can meet quite strong earthbound spirits who can be quite physical,
Right.
and will give you a push, or do that, or they will move. You've got poltergeist activity. You can have things thrown at you. It does happen. Yes. In spiritual work, you have to be prepared for anything. And not take it lightly or be silly about it or challenge unnecessarily, because you might get something that you can't cope with. So I'd say to anybody listening, careful what you do. Don't go looking for trouble, and keep your vibrations high.
That's the last thing I hope for, last thing I would do, to ever seek for a poltergeist activity. I have a lot of scares in myself.
Yeah, it generally occurs in the younger people, whether on adolescents, where their energies are all over the place. The movement can come from the actual energy field itself, simply moving objects. It may not necessarily be a being that's doing it, but it could be an earthbound who's frustrated, who's a little bit confused, and who just wants help and is going, can't you see me? Can't you feel me? Can't you hear me? Hello, I need help. I need help. Oh, what can I do? What can I do? Oh, I can manipulate energy. I can manipulate this item, and I can make it move. If you see it move, will you see me? So it can be born out frustration and a way of saying, help me. So poltergeist isn't necessarily negative.
Well, thank you for your kind and detailed responses today. It was really fun and interesting and helpful, hopefully for our viewers as well. Anything to add, Don?
Oh, this has been great. And you explained it so well with such a passion. We can actually see that. So, yeah, I would like to really, really thank you for your time and everything you said. I think it'll be This interview will be a great content, and I think our viewers will love it.